But aside from that propaganda, Diane, you've also been having a look at what it's going to cost to set up some of these inquiries.
Yeah, the inquiries as well as the outcomes of them, including the redress schemes. So if we go back quickly to October of 2022, when we first saw the release of the report of the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse in England, there were several recommendations that came out of that report. Of course, this cost millions of pounds and cost many of years to complete. It was released in October of 2022. One of the main recommendations from the report was to set up a redress scheme. What we're now hearing is, of course, we don't have the money to cover the redress scheme because there have been so many children who suffered sexual abuse that it could hit up to £10 billion to pay for the redress scheme in England. £10 billion. And we see, Scotland has a redress scheme, of course, but as we're seeing with the Fernethi residential school ladies, of course, that we've been covering for years, they're currently not eligible for redress despite having the scheme in Scotland because they weren't abused for long enough. Apparently 6 weeks of abuse is not enough to be able to apply for redress, and also because they were not in the correct setting, of course, which is a lie. But anyways, Keir Starmer is now criticizing the previous Conservative government, although the Conservative government was the one that was in power when this was released, for failing to implement what is called the J Review recommendations, and that includes the redress schemes. So even though Keir Starmer is in charge and the Conservative government put it in place, he's now blaming them for not having this available and implementing the 20 recommendations. Just last month, we had released the National Audit on Group-Based Child Exploitation and Abuse, which is the grooming gangs that we've been talking about. This report was led by Baroness Casey of Blackstock, DBECB. She's had a number of high-level government roles over the years. She is now the UK government's lead non-executive director as of January this year, I believe. And so she was in charge of this particular audit. And we've got a quote from here that she provided in the foreword to the report, saying, "We have seen state and church institutions, residential care and medical settings, all pressured to hold inquiries into historic failings. It cost £5 million for one local inquiry, and that took almost 5 years. If we'd got this right years ago, which of course we didn't, seeing these girls as children raped rather than, quote, wayward teenagers or collaborators in their abuse, collecting ethnicity data and acknowledging as a system that we did not do a good enough job, then I doubt that we would be in this place now." She goes on to say in the executive summary that there were around 500,000 children a year have been likely to experience sexual abuse as children of any kind. And for the vast majority of them, of course, their abuse has not been identified, has not been reported to the police. So the police data is much lower than that. According to the police recorded data, there were just over 100,000 offenses of child sexual abuse and exploitation recorded in 2024. So that's about a fifth of what they think actually happens, with around 60% of them being what they call contact offenses, and the rest are online offenses. Of the contact offenses, an estimated around 17,000 are flagged by the police as child sexual exploitation in the recorded data. The problem is that we do not have reliable data. The only data that is available comes from a new police data set on child sexual exploitation, which is called the Complex and Organized Child Abuse 7 data set, if you want to look it up. And although this has many limitations, it identified only around 700 recorded offenses of group-based child sexual exploitation, so the grooming gang behavior, in 2023. There was an excellent Substack post that came out from Miah last week. So I'd like to show some of what he's said about this. Of course, Ben has interviewed Raja in the past, and we had him as a speaker at our live event on location in Cheltenham. And he has said here, if this is truly about the survivors, then each and every child betrayed by the authorities must be entitled to compensation. We now know that such a compensation scheme could cost up to £10 billion, as I've just said. And he went on to say as well in this article that he basically says that he doesn't think that anything will ever really come out of this. Unfortunately, seems to be quite discouraged about it. He did say, of course, that this national redress scheme was one of those 20 core recommendations, as I said. But now he's identifying once again that this proposal has been scrapped because of the cost. As we all know, Raja Miah has done an incredible job over the years for UK Column and everywhere else on identifying this and has paid the price for it. So I think we should continue to support him. And we need to also continue to make sure that we can put pressure on the government wherever possible to make them accountable for what has happened and protect these 500,000 children per year that are being abused sexually across the country, Brian.
So thank you very much for that. And just to reinforce our opening statement on this, horrific what has been going on over a great many years to do with children in UK can only happen with the full connivance of the establishment and the government. There's no question of that. But what we are saying is watch out, because you're now going to see the government pushing everything to do with child safety, child abuse, because that's the smokescreen to help cover up what it is doing elsewhere. Do we need to stay on the case with children? Yes, but be aware of that smokescreen.